I mentioned Blair Jenkins, and he's with me now. Blair is the Chief Executive of Yes Scotland. In a former life, he was Head of News at BBC and STV. And I'm not just saying this because he's here, because I say it to people all the time, I haven't heard him say a word wrong or write a word wrong. And it's a real pleasure to ask him a difficult question. It is a difficult question. I alluded to it back there when we were filming. And it was a thing that made me, maybe a unionist, certainly made me vote against devolution in '79. I'm thinking I'm a socialist, so is the same proportion of people in England, and I don't think it would be right for Scotland to get an advantage over England. Now, I think that Scotland, I think most people in the West believe that we would be a powerhouse in the 8th richest country, but how does that leave England, and will that influence people maybe not to vote or to vote no because they don't want England to be disadvantaged?
It's an interesting question, Fraser. It's a question that we get asked quite a lot. And I think there are two main things to say about that. One is that we know that in the way the UK economy is currently run, it's not just Scotland that suffers from the fact that all of the economic wealth and activity is concentrated in the south east of England. It's also the north of England. And I'm very strongly of the view, and you say this to people in the north of England, that a dynamic Scottish economy right next to them is going to probably have a beneficial effect to cities, communities in the north of England, and they might get rather more benefit from that than they do from being a long way from the south east. I think the other thing that people say to us from south of the border is that Scotland, the way we imagine it, Scotland as a more socially just society, as a fairer society, would act as something of almost not an example, but a beacon. It would act as a counter tendency to the tendency that's been there in the UK for the last 30 odd years, which is towards more and more inequality of wealth and opportunity. And I think that direction of travel that the UK has been on for such a long time, under successive Labour and Conservative governments, of enormous disparities of wealth and opportunity with all the consequences of that, I don't think that's the direction of travel a lot of people in England want either. And if we create an independent Scotland which has a different approach to life, different economic policy, strategy, I think that will benefit people in England as well.
We've got through in the display a sign that says another Scotland is possible. I think it is, for me at least, it's this vision, hopeful vision of a better Scotland, just more prosperous and more democratic. And I think I think that is the key thing. I've heard the economic dynamic press point as well, but I think the key thing is that we show there is an alternative.
Well, I think that's right. I mean, the three things I think we can say very strongly about an independent Scotland is the democratic argument is we will get the kind of governments that we want, following the kind of policies that we want. So we won't get governments who didn't vote for taking us in a direction we don't think Scottish people want to go in. I think Scotland will be a prosperous country, and that's very important, because with a prosperous economy we can afford to do the things we want to do. And I also believe that the subject we just touched on, fairness and social justice, will have a much better chance of coming through properly in an independent Scotland. I do believe that a lot of people in Scotland are unhappy with the way that the UK has been evolving. It's almost as though public services now, as viewed from London, are seen as a regrettable expense rather than as a vital part of life. And I think most people in Scotland regard decent public services as a vital part of life. Also, the other thing we have to tackle, I think, in terms of the labour market, is I think the corporate view in the UK has become that people are more or less disposable units of labour. And I don't think, again, that's not the Scottish view of life, and I believe we can get these things right, get these things better in an independent Scotland.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed.
Great pleasure.
Okay.